Well, this will be lesson number 10, and I decided it would be in order to do a lesson kind of doing a comparison between the Ip Man pole, which most people have seen, and the Tang Yik pole, which most people haven't seen. Realizing any comparison with Ip Man pole is going to be very general, because if you look at the different Ip Man lineages, everybody seems to do their pole differently. There's some common biomechanics, but the sequence of their forms will be different. Some of their techniques will be different. The 6.5 points, as they define them, will be different. There's no consistency really across Ip Man lineages, so any comparison is kind of general and superficial to some extent, but it's still worth doing. In general, the Ip Man forms are very short, and so Ip Man people will train both sides because they have such a short form, and it makes sense to do so. The Tang Yik form is so long and so involved that we only train it on one side. It doesn't make sense to try to do things both ways. In the Ip Man systems, as I pointed out in the previous lesson, they tend to use a much bigger, heavier pole. We use this smaller pole for reasons I pointed out before, simply because it's found to be optimal for actually having to fight and use this and see it as a weapon. So that's another difference. The Ip Man lineages tend to see the pole more as a conditioning tool and to reinforce some of the empty hand stuff, and less as an actual weapon in its own right. So they tend to have a much bigger, heavier pole because they're getting that conditioning effect from training with it. Because they're using a bigger, heavier pole, often in the Ip Man systems you'll see them with a wider grip, and they hold the pole way back here because you can support the weight of the pole. In the Tang Yik system, the pole is forward, the grip is narrower, and it's resting right on the leg, so we can control it better. In the Tang Yik system, we grip the pole with the lead hand, almost like a saber grip, and the thumb pointing towards the tip, rather than a fist. And this allows your thumb is less of a target for shots coming this way, and it allows you to roll and control the pole a little better. When doing the thrust, the Ip Man systems tend to do it at shoulder height and turn and palm up. And I think I addressed this in the previous lessons about how this is kind of a precarious position, easy to get whacked, or we always keep palm down so the pole is supported. We don't come all the way up here. The thrust stays lower than the shoulder level so that it's supported by the body and the elbow never flares out. So again, this emphasis on keeping the pole in tight, engaged with the body, with the thrust, with all the movements, versus the Ip Man tendency to hold the pole out here and move it this way. We keep it in close. Let's see what else. The mechanic of the thrust itself, the Tang Yik system, we swing it forward so it stays tight with the body. In the Ip Man system, they tend to make it a two-stage thrust like this, and it's just not quite as quick and crisp as a nice direct thrust. In the Tang Yik system, we talk about doing things from side to center. So there's a lot of angling and getting the angle. And so that means there's a lot of lateral footwork. This is one of our key footwork patterns, is just moving to the side. And again, you just don't see much lateral footwork in the Ip Man systems. It's all very linear, forward and back. So those are the major differences between Ip Man pole in general and the Tang Yik pole.